Lamptey Show. My name's Joey, and we're back with the classic lineup, as people call it. That means Paul.
All right, mate.
And with Neil.
Yes.
More last-minute goal fantasticness. Paul, where are you going to start us on Moments of the Week?
I'm going to go on the fact it was a good game. It was an enjoyable game of football between two teams trying to play football, and I enjoyed it. I just enjoyed the game itself. It was actually just a good game of football, which is very rare at times, especially in League One. But two teams playing football the right way and all that sort of bollocks. But just two teams who both tried to win and sort of played well. And it was just quite an interesting game to watch.
Yeah, I like you say, that was the main thing. When it finished, even if it had finished 1-0 to a certain extent, my enduring thing of it would have been that was a good game to watch, of two teams, like you say. We joke about playing football in the right way, don't we? But even outside of that, it was two teams having a go at winning a game, wasn't it? Or at least who would come with a game plan that they were trying to execute to a certain extent.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see a team who, obviously Doncaster have had quite a good start like we have, and if you read Sideways Sammy's stuff, they've had quite a difficult start to the season in terms of the teams they played against, but we're in the top 6, and they're quite an interesting team to watch. The other amazing thing is they've still got James Coppinger, who's about 39, which is just bizarre.
Normally that sounds like an exaggeration, actually, but I think in this case he might actually be older than he might have hit 40 by now. I'm going to have a look at this while we're talking. Neil, your moment of the week.
My moment of the week. You ain't going to find me say anything but Amadou Bakayoko's last-minute goal, I'm afraid. It feels... I was tempted to talk about Castaneer, just that little impact, and especially that run at the end where you're like, hang on, can you do that? Is that what you're capable of? Because I wasn't too sure to this point, but that was interesting. But no, I mean, come on, that goal, you're plugging away all game long, and then yet again we find a way to grab something from the game, and it had to be him. It was a good goal, well worked, and I really liked the celebration. There's a few things going on. You've got him running full pelt towards the crowd, like the fastest man alive towards the crowd. You've got everybody else doing their own celebration around him. Again, that's become a little bit of a thing. But then you've suddenly got scattering of people like, actually, we want to win this, suddenly legging it back to the centre circle, which is obviously my favourite thing. So that mix of things altogether was superb.
That is top class. I watch it on my phone from Transylvania, obviously, because I'm abroad on iFollow watching it. It means that I can't easily text you when I see something like that, Neil. But please rest assured that when they picked the ball up, I was like, I know one person that's going to be pleased about this.
I was pumped. I just had my moment, and I started clapping my hands like, yeah, get that ball, come on.
Yeah, perfect. My moment of the week is actually hot off the presses, and I would like to read it to you verbatim from the club's official Twitter account. And this is from the game that's going on at the moment between what I guess is like the sort of reserve team, whatever the guys they exist in now, and Rugby Town. It says 32 minutes, goal. City double their lead, and it's Baka who blocks the keeper's clearance and then slides the ball into the empty net.
Yes, Baka.
He's literally beyond parody, isn't he?
He's done it again.
I've a number of times this season, just because it amuses myself, I've tweeted classic and then a player's name just for anything that they do, whether they've done it before or not, or whatever. But that is actually classic Bakayoko now. Like that was what started off as a joke. Now that's the thing that he does. I think he knows it as well, doesn't he? I think he's like, maybe this is how, like that guy that tried to do that seal dribble. He's going to be like, this is what I do to do football. I tackle the ball.
He's good at it.
He is good at it. Yeah. But I couldn't, me and Neil were talking while we were waiting for Paul to join us to start off with. There is nothing more enjoyable than a Bakayoko goal, is there, Paul?
No. I mean, on that Rugby Town team, they put a very strong team out for that, haven't they?
Yeah.
It's, Bakayoko's goal was just what we needed, which was an equalising goal. He's a weird fella, isn't he? I mean, there's quite a few weird fellas within the team. Probably no more than his strike partner from last season, Hawula, who's unbelievably strange. But Yeah, I'm supposed we're going on to is this the game or have you done your moment of the week?
That was a beautiful segue. Yeah, well listened
It
to.
was. Sorry, I'm never really sure. I always think it's best just to destroy your segues just to make sure we know what's going on. I'm just going to go very. I'm not really. I'm sort of going to go for the team or game, but in a sort of more starting with the sort of goalkeeper who, after 10 games, I'm still not sure how good he is. He seems to be fine, and that's all you can really say because he doesn't really. I can't really remember making many decent saves, and as we know, we play out from the back, and he plays some very odd passes at times. And him and Kyle McFadden are a strange partnership in terms of their interaction. At one point, they had a massive falling out on Saturday because what's the name? I can't even pronounce the goalkeeper. Marco
Morosi.
Morosi. He passed the ball to McFadden. McFadden fell over, and you were like, well, you probably shouldn't have passed the ball to him at that point. But also, if you're going to pass it to him, try and pass it somewhere near him so it doesn't look quite as shit.
I sympathise with this ever so slightly. So again, me and Neil were talking about this, but I actually think that Morosi is really. I'm growing very warm to him. I don't think he's a goalkeeper, is he? But I do think he sets the play up well. And what I do think, and I know that this is a weird way of looking at it, I sort of think the way that he operates when something like that happens, it's because the players aren't on their heels ready to go. He wants to move the ball out quickly to abuse the fact that their team are going to be getting themselves back into position, and I don't think he cares whether the players are. He's aiming to get it out quick, and I remember that because it was quite a dangerous incident in the end. They nearly got a decent chance from it.
Yeah.
But I don't think McFadzean was ready for it, and you could say, well, that's Morosi's fault for not gauging that he wasn't ready for it. But I think Morosi wants to get the ball and put it out quick. I don't think that McFadzean was fanning about. I sort of think I don't think it's all McFadzean's fault, but I sort of think it's easy to say, oh, well, Morosi shouldn't have given it to him. But actually, he should have just been ready to go. I think we've got very, very strong capability in terms of counter-attacking, haven't we?
Well, I understand that. I just think on that one, it was a bad pass. I think it was, and I understand again, you've got to be on your heels, but it's sometimes you can't change direction that quickly. Obviously, Messi can, but McFadden can't. So you've got to judge of how the person's position when you pass him the ball, and he was running back towards his goal and then had to turn around quite. Basically, it was a fuck up, and quite a few of the fuck ups that happened from playing out of the back happened because of something to do with McFadden, and obviously there was his under-hit back pass that was it was right in front of us. You could see as soon as he went to shimmy it to punt it into the stand, and at that point you were like, he's going to pass this back to the keeper, and he did. And you were like, and this is, I know sort of some people have sort of been quite impressed with him. I haven't so far. One of the reasons I haven't is I see an old senior pro making mistakes that none of his young teammates are doing, and he consistently doing it. And I know it hasn't cost us, but it really should have cost us against Doncaster. The only reason that one didn't cost us is because Walsh put in an amazing recovering tackle, an absolutely unbelievable out of nowhere covering block. And you can't keep doing that. And I know someone's go, but we played quite a lot of poor teams so far, and we've conceded quite a few goals this season, and we're going to concede bad goals, and we can't. I don't mind playing out from the back. I have no issue as long as you've got players who can do it. And so far, he isn't doing it particularly well. And one thing I did notice against Doncaster is we started to go a little bit longer from the keeper, a bit earlier than we had done in previous games. They weren't afraid to go a bit longer and get it away from the defence because, again, very early on in the first half, Walsh played a blind pass into the central midfield, and we should have conceded from that. And the fact we didn't doesn't take away from the fact we can't keep making that mistake. We can't play that loose ball. Other than that, I think the defence is looking really good. I think Hyam's. I never thought I would see Hyam as a player who could play in the Championship. I'd be amazed if he's not there next season.
Yeah.
He's come back into the team and he's just solid. And his reading of the game has bailed us out on quite a few occasions. Mason, I think we all agree, solid. Dabo.
I would go higher than solid for Mason this season. I think he's the standout player in that team so far this season. I think I'm gobsmacked by how good he's been. I thought he was great again on Saturday. He just looks so competent, and I think he would look a lot better if he'd got a better performing Huula in front of him.
maybe that is it's the attacking from that side is still a bit, but I think the attacking from, we'll get on to the front three, but I think they're definitely holding us back.
Yeah.
But I think the fullbacks, they're solid players, and they're consistently 6, 7 out of 10, and I think that's fine, isn't it? Like, every so often Mason will have a game where he's an 8. I think he's a consistent 7. Maybe if he had someone better in front of him, he would be pushing on for 8, 9s each week. But that back four, the only question really is, we're not really keeping that many clean sheets. We are conceding quite a few goals. And it's not quite working at the moment in terms of, they're not playing badly, but there is errors there. It's whether or not the opposition can capitalise. One of the interesting things, having a look at the sort of 2-minute review of the game, is how many decent chances Doncaster actually had when, especially in the first half, we were on top, but Doncaster still had 3 or 4 half decent chances, and they you could say the goal was against run of play, but in general terms of shots on target, it was pretty even, and I think that's where the defence, and again, probably defensively, the midfield isn't quite at it. I mean, Walsh is really good, but we can't kid ourselves. He has spells in every game where he's awful, and I've been to the last 3 games, and each of those 3 games has been periods where you're like, he's not playing well, and the other teams are capitalising on that. And then the second half on Saturday, he was brilliant.
Yeah.
But the first half of the second half on Saturday, he was awful, and he was either non-existent or Doncaster was just running rush shot over him. And he's got, and it is a criticism, but it's a fact of life as well. He hasn't played that many games. He's got to learn how to be effective when we're not on top or when he's not having a good time. And one thing he's not particularly good at is his reading of the game and defensively isn't that great at the moment. And sometimes you're like, just take a foul, just kill the momentum a little bit. When we haven't got top, it was the same against Burton where he was quite poor for quite a long period. We're like, you need to work out a way of disrupting the opposition. We can't just watch them knock the ball around. You need to work out whether or not you just take a sly foul or you can nip in a little head of someone. The transition from them and possession to us in midfield needs to be worked out. Go on.
I just think that, so I completely agree with you. The thing for me is that the thing that's marked him out against Blackpool when on his debut, I didn't think he played well at all, and then I think he's grown into it. And the thing that marks him out is it's his individual sort of moment contributions, some tackles, some passes, and that goal against Wimbledon, where you think, bloody hell, you're very, very, like, you're way a cut above this level. I think you're right. I think with game time and experience, by the end of this season, he could be a phenomenal player at this level, I think. I think O'Hare has got a lot of kind of praise. For me, it's Walsh is the one that I look at and think, fuck, if you get a bit more experience and a bit more sense and a bit more savvy, that you've got the raw materials to be really something quite special. Neil, what do you think?
I agree, and I think I kind of want to wrap up that little 3 in the middle. So you've got O'Hare and Walsh doing their good job, but I think alongside Shipley, between them, you've got a really good mix of players who work hard. Really, like Walsh, that Paul mentioned earlier, that saving tackle, the way he got back and fixed that situation out of nowhere was incredible. And Shipley does similar, but then you've also got this real sort of creativity and kind of confidence on the ball between all 3 of them, and it's a really nice dynamic. And you sort of think, well, that's working at the moment. Obviously, in our minds, Kelly is the main man in the middle, and you at some point, don't know when that will be, you bring him back in, but then you suddenly think, well, actually, we've got Alan as well.
Jamie
to come
Allen,
back in.
yeah.
We've got to somehow find a way to pick the best out of that group. But from what I've seen so far, that 3 has real potential to kind of push us on forward. I think the one thing I think we certainly liked the other day was maybe a defensive shape which would support the defence. So Walsh was trying his best, and he's just a bit of a maniac, so I think he can cover that ground quite well. I think positionally we were a little bit out of out of sorts in the middle. I think when they're on the ball and they were doing a really good job with it, but I think there was just a few too many times where the gaps were a bit too obvious. So that's maybe something we can work on. I just want to very quickly just work back to a point that Paul made really early on, but you mentioned like we've played some poor teams, but I kind of think like, hang on, we've also played some good teams as well. I mean, we played Blackpool, Bristol, Doncaster, and Oxford so far, and then they're all in the top 10. They're all just below us. I mean, we've played some good teams, and I do think we've got to give us, as hard as it is sometimes to give ourselves credit. I think you look at that, we have played some good teams, and we've got some good results against them.
We also played Bolton, and if you think about what that's going to look like in the Rotham's yearbook in a number of years' time, that's going to be. But as well, Portsmouth, you've not mentioned, who were sort of bizarrely lower than you would expect them to be. That's a team that probably is the one that you would have not been looking forward to at the start of the season.
So all I was doing was basing it on Dom's thing, where the position of the teams when we played them, I think is basically how he organised it, didn't he? And on that basis, we'd had the second easiest start to the season.
But I also think...
I think it's all arbitrary. I accept the fact it's all arbitrary. I think also, if you look at it in reality, we played 10 games, 6 of them have been at home, 4 of them away, and we haven't won away yet. So there are other teams out there who've only played 4 home games, played 6 away. It's due to the fact that Bury don't exist, and with international call-ups, it's quite a weird start to the season. I think Doncaster have got 2 games in hand on us, haven't they? No. I think it hasn't really... We've started really well. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying that there is also a case of there are lots of... 10 games in, we haven't had the hardest start. We haven't had it easy either. We've just had... we've just gone through the games we've gone through. But I was just basing it on what Dom was saying when we played those teams, their positioning, we had the second easiest on Dom's statistics. So I wasn't sort of claiming that we'd played all the bottom 3. It was just a case of on Dom's statistics. It was basically, I think Doncaster would have one of the harder starts. So as you say, it's like Portsmouth and all those sort of things. So it wasn't really I wasn't sort of bemoaning or sort of saying that we hadn't played well. I think we have. It was just a case of that's where we are in where we are.
So you're saying that we've been a rubbish team, and it's only because we've been playing absolute idiots that we've been able to get somewhere. We've got some tests coming up, haven't we? Because we've got Sunderland coming up in November, and we've got Fleetwood, who are right up there.
I think I think one of the things is we need to make sure that we don't do a Lee Clark unbeaten run.
Yeah.
Where it's like 40-odd games, but we only win 10 of them. I think at the moment it's fine. Obviously, really good. Not bemoaning the fact we're unbeaten, and it's 5 wins, 5 draws. That's great. But I'd like us to get over I'd like us to win away soon. I think that's going to be a big thing. I think that winning at home, drawing away thing is great, but I think a couple of wins away would be quite nice as well. I think that was sort of get the mood going. I think. With Milton Keynes Dons coming up, where obviously we're going to take 4,000 or 5,000 again. We've sold out Rotherham on Saturday. It's making that, we've had a great start. There's no denying we've had a great start, but we now need to make sure the next 10 games we probably get a little bit better. And I agree with everything you said about the midfield. I think Shipley made 2 or 3 amazing balls through for Hawula in the last couple of games. He's playing well at the moment. I think we all accept the fact that Callum O'Hare is again, probably too good for League One. And I think if you look through the team, you look at the defence and midfield and you see a couple of players who probably could easily do it in the Championship. It's when you get to the front 3, I think we've got issues. I think Gibello he's a crossing machine, which is great. But I'm beginning to get to the point it's like, you need to either try and pick someone out or you need to train with someone. If we had James Collins, he'd probably be on 10 goals this season.
Yeah.
But we don't. We have Godden, and Godden's probably fine in the air, but I haven't seen him
good in the air.
Well, that's fine.
But he's also 5'10" and not built for hammering crosses into the box, is he?
I haven't seen him get on the end of one of Gibello's crosses yet. And Gibello puts in about 10 crosses a game.
They all hit the back stick, don't they? It doesn't matter where the striker is. They all just go straight to the back post, which is fine. But
if you've got someone at the back post, read it in.
Crossing's rubbish.
And
sorry, I said it. I think I said it a couple of weeks ago, but it's just, in a way, I just think it's too easy. Just getting the ball and crossing blindly every single time he gets it. It's like, there's other things you can do. You don't always have to cross. I know he's a winger, but it just seems to me it's just like going through the motions a little bit. I think he needs to stop it. Stop crossing all the time. Like start bringing people into play. I mean, I love it when he sort of takes that touch inside and he starts bringing it inside. He should do that more.
The problem for me is that we've never been better equipped in terms of personnel for somebody getting to the byline and pulling it back. Because if you think Walsh and Shipley are likely to burst forward from the box, and O'Hare and Huula's going to be cutting inside from wide, and Godden, you've in theory got an option there of 5-6 possibly players in the box for a pullback. Whereas for a cross, Huula doesn't want to head a ball in, and Godden's net game, I think he can score headed goals, can't he? But he's not Dublin or someone who's like a crossing guy, is he? That's not what we're trying to do. And I also think it completely nullifies the way that it's going at the moment is that, and I think Paul, I'll sort of lead you onto this to pick it up from. Godden is becoming somewhat of a kind of non-culpable non-entity, if that makes sense.
Well, I think we sort of disagree on this. As I said, I've seen the last 3 games, and Godden's been average and non-existent on Saturday, which is fine. 78th minute, he's done fuck all for 78 minutes. Brilliant ball over from Mason. He's 8 yards out, centre of the goal, shouldn't miss, heads it over. And that's the difference between having an okay, you haven't really been involved, but you scored game, to you've just been shit for 90 minutes. And that's fine. As I said, if you're a striker, you can be, I don't care how badly you play, as long as you then score that chance. And it's finding a way of getting, maybe we don't want him involved in the game. That's fine. Then we need to do something better with Gibello and Huula. They have to do something else because that front 3 isn't working. And you look in the last 3 games, in the last 2 games, Huula's had 5 sitters and scored once. And that's an issue. That's always going to be Huula's issue, isn't it? That is Huula. He's, if he had a perfume, it'd be called League One. He stinks of League One, where he's obviously better than League Two because he keeps getting in these opportunities. He keeps getting those situations where he's through one-on-one with the keeper or he's there. The problem is he just doesn't quite have that next bit to make him a championship striker, and he misses too many chances. But fair play to him. As I said, you compare him and Godden, he's had 5 sitters and Godden's had 1 in the last 2 games. So it's like, how do we get Godden involved? How do we use him? And it might just be a case of, in the next 3 games, you'll score a goal a game. That's fine. But we need to work out how we're going to work it, because it's just, I said, if we had a striker, or 2 of our strikers were as good as our 3 midfielders, and as you say, it's not even the midfielders we have, it's the midfielders who aren't even fit, then we'd be really good. It's that front 3, which is just, for me, just doesn't work. And I'm not sure how it works, because I don't see anyone on the bench who I really want to bring in and start. It's not like, I want Godden to be out and Baka to start, because I don't particularly rate Bakayoko either. I know he scored the winner on Saturday. That's fine. Bring him on as a sub, impact sub. Baka, brilliant. Starter, not interested. Biamu, not sure. Maybe he could get on the ends of Gibello's crosses, and we still don't know really sure what Castaneer brings.
Wow.
If that front 3, if that front 3 had someone else, just a sort of on loan or just a championship player, you thought that guy's going to play in the championship in the future, then we probably would have won all of the last 3 games. And that's the difference at the moment. We're just not clinical in the final third. And that's Huula's not clinical and Godden's just not involved.
I think you're going a bit big on the statement, though. I agree. Like it's not been like the most influential last couple of games, but we've done all right to this point. We're playing well as a team at this point, and prior to those games, they were like linking up really well and everything. Oh, Paul, I can see you on Skype. Anyway, no, you popped up on my screen. It's like always telling me to be quiet. But I just think we've done well to this point. They have had some really good games together. I do not disagree on Huula. I think he is winding me up something chronic at the moment. It's just because it's mistake after mistake, which is my issue with him. And I do not disagree on Godden. I think he had a poor game or a quiet game the other day. But I don't think we're in a position to make these judgments and say, right, that front three just isn't going to work for us just yet. I think there's still something bubbling away, and it's only been 10 games, and they've had some good games altogether, and we've scored, 16 goals in the league, which isn't too bad when it's, everybody's contributing, all that sort of nonsense. But I don't know. I don't want to get too worked up over something just yet. Like, they've had a bad couple of games, but come on, it's not fundamental yet.
That's fine. I just think in the games I've seen, they've been bailed out by, like, the O'Hare's goal against Wimbledon. It was Walsh's goal against Wimbledon, O'Hare's goal against fucking Blackpool. It feels like the midfield are bailing them out when they're in deep shit by getting the crucial goals, which are allowing the fact that the front three have had. I said, the last 3 games, I don't think any of them have had a good game in any of those 3 games. None of it's worked for me in those 3 games. Gibello's just an odd player, and I think that wingers are just odd. He's a winger. Whatever we say, he's just a winger, and that's fine if he then starts picking people out or doing something a bit more intelligent with his crossing. It's just the other two. It's just if we had an Armstrong or a Dominic Samuel or a Callum Wilson, we'd have probably scored another 5 or 6 goals because the midfield are creating and they're moving people apart and they're playing those balls through. And I just don't see just a bit disappointed in the front three because I think they've been given the ammunition and they've been given decent chances. And I can sort of see, and I could be proven completely wrong, but I can sort of see why Peterborough let Godden go in terms of, I don't think he's a bad player at all. I can just see why you could think of other options. Other options wouldn't be as, you might be able to get away with a little bit more from someone else. And I just think that those front three, I just don't see, when we're under pressure, I don't see who's the outlet. But I don't see.
I'm not one for predictions, but I want you to remind me of this conversation in 10 games' time about Godden. And I want to see what I'm going to write a note somewhere. Ask me when we play 20 games on Godden and what I think about him, because I have a good feeling about him, and I don't like to predict. I might have look like an idiot, but in 20 games time, I reckon we'll all have a very different opinion, and I think we'll be very pleased with what he's done.
Neil, I'd like to ask you to comment on Paul's controversial assertion that we would have scored more goals with Callum Wilson in the team so far. Do you think that's fair?
That is an outrageous statement.
I think, Paul, anyone else that you would like to see that you think might have scored more goals?
Obviously, the Callum Wilson who was in League One tearing it apart. But that's where we've been for the last couple of years. The only year we didn't have a decent striker was the year we got relegated. Other than that, we have had a decent goal scorer. God knows what happened to Dominic Samuel's career, but he was just a class above this level, wasn't he? And
he was a bit lovely, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I've seen one of the questions was like, it would cost us £1 million to sort of improve this team. I don't think it would. I think just a decent loan signing or a decent striker, and that team's flying. That team's just that next level up. And it's, as I said, it's a James Collins type. If we're going to play that sort of crossing ball into the box, someone who's got a presence in the box. As I said, I've got nothing against Godden. I just don't think he's playing particularly well at the moment. I don't think he's a bad player. I just think we need to work out what we're doing with him. But whether or not then, because also I think he gets a bit frustrated and he starts doing stupid things and he starts leaving the box and he starts trying to get involved and you're like, well, don't.
The problem I've got with that is that I think where I've been impressed with him is that he reminds me ever so slightly of Leon Clark, where at first when we signed Leon Clark, I was like, oh good, we've got a guy in who does goals. And then the more you watched him, the more that even though that team was Fleck and Wilson and Clark and everything, it was always Clark for me that was the fulcrum of everything. I thought he was the guy that was linking everything together. And you were like, by the time that he left, you were like, you're a much better player than I thought you'd be, if that makes sense. I think that Godden has got a touch of that in him. I think that Godden has actually, I would ideally like to see him play up front with someone else. as a 4-4-2. And I don't want to see us play 4-4-2, but I see him as being possibly a player that could do with another striker closer to him, or even better, that you'd have Hiwula trying to play closer to him so that they'd got some sort of link play. But I don't see those two having linked up whatsoever. And I think that likewise impacts on Jabello's effectiveness, because I don't think Jabello is the same sort of winger who wants to be a striker. He's a winger, isn't he? And that there he's putting crosses into the box with no one getting on the end of them. Am I talking out my arse there, or what do you think, Neil?
No, I get it. I just feel we're so desperate to kind of make us the best we can be, and I get it, but I just think we're maybe jumping the gun a little bit on and maybe picking areas where it's going up and down at the moment. We're not perfect. We're 10 games in. We're just finding bits and bobs and that. But I don't disagree on the two up front thing though. I think we want to change anything, but there are certain players you think would work better. Yeah, in another sort of formation elsewhere, so I reckon you put him up front with, I don't know, like Max or something like that. As much as it would probably ruin our team, it would probably make sense for them to play together.
Like I said, just to reiterate, one, I'm closer to where you are on this, Neil. I sort of think things are ticking along reasonably well, and what I would like to see is the front three click a little bit better rather than think that they need to be totally dismantled. Yeah, and secondly is I don't want to tamper with the formation. I've wanted to see us play some variation of 4-3-3 for years, and it's brilliant being able to see us actually doing it to some sort of effect. Right, Paul, let's have your final thoughts on the game, and then we'll let Dom say a preview, and then we'll do Paul's post bag.
That was it, really. It was just, we sort of went from there. Bakayoko scored the equaliser. Castanier went through and tried to play O'Hare through and didn't quite pull it off.
It was glorious, weren't it?
No, it wasn't glorious because he didn't quite pull it off. It was highly frustrating. But it sort of added to the whole. I said it was a good game. I just think I just the front three doesn't convince, and that's just my feelings on it at the moment. I just think that if we had just something better, I think we'd be fine. I just can't quite. I could be wrong. You could both be right. It just doesn't work for me in terms of I don't see. You seem to think that Gordon's a better player with the ball than I've seen, and I think just the last couple of games I've been a bit frustrated with how he's then, when he's got involved, how he's just sort of been quite. His use of the ball hasn't really been a bit careless, in my opinion, which was a bit frustrating as well. When we were chasing the game, he just needed a bit more of. I want my striker every so often just to hold the ball up and be a bit of someone that we can build off. And he kept trying the same outside his foot flick that one went out of play and the other one just was like 5 yards in front of the player, and you were like, just make sure that pass works because we're in a decent position and. You've sort of given the ball away a bit lazily, in my opinion.
Just thinking about the wide players before we throw to Dom, is I have a vision in my head of Robbins sort of going through with the backroom team and saying, I think it might be good if we freshened up things out on the wide positions, and then sort of looking in the changing rooms and seeing Castanier and Wakefield and then Jody Jones with his leg in a cast and him being like, is Jones ready to play? Is it possible? They were like, we could put Wakefield in. He's like, but could Jones just play through the pain?
I mean, what in the ideal world do we do? Because the ideal world is like Huul is a better player than he is, isn't it? But I just, he's annoying me a little bit at the moment. I think Jody Jones, imagine the Jody Jones that we can all remember in that team. That would be good, wouldn't it? And if whoever the other person is, whether that's Castanier is, that last minute Castanier for 90 minutes, that would be good as well. But
that's never happening.
I mean, you called him box office, didn't you? And it's like, yes, he is.
He's so box office. That chance that you missed against Blackpool is I still think about it every single day. I just think that is clearly what he is, isn't it? either bizarrely take the game by the scruff of the neck in the last minute, beat like 4 players, and fucking nearly win the game for us on Saturday, or just miss what is basically like an entirely free shot at goal. Or get sent off bizarrely for like a 30-yard sliding tackle on a second yellow card. He's not capable of doing anything that isn't completely box office, and I love him for it. But can you imagine starting him?
Oh my God.
He wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't be surprised if you look back over his career and he's literally never started a game of football.
What did Robin say earlier this week? He was talking about he's getting 20 minutes here and there. He's getting 20. He's trying to get his fitness up. He's like, you probably don't need to get his fitness up, but on 20 minutes, that's fine, isn't it?
I love him. I love the fact now that at the moment we've got subs coming on, and it's like Bakayoko and Castaneda and everything. You're like, yeah, this is going to put it up.
You know what I would love as a sub?
Go on.
So I want O'Hare playing, and then also O'Hare as a sub as well, please.
That would be really good, wouldn't it?
It's just so annoying that what he brings to a fading game, and his life is amazing, but he's just too good. He's too good. You just don't waste that sort of talent with only 20 minutes. But what are you going to do, eh?
I love just the idea of bringing Bakayoko and Castaneda on, and the opposition manager just being like, we don't know what is we haven't got a plan for this. We don't know what. All of our tactics have gone out of the window. We'll either be able to deal with this really easily or not at all. There's nothing in between. Oh. Right, okay. Let's hear from Dom, and then let's take a dip into Paul's post bag. Hi Dom, thanks for joining us.
Hiya, good to be on as always.
Rotherham, what can we expect?
Yeah, so they're in a slightly strange position at the moment where the mid-table at the moment, they were expected to challenge for promotion, but they're in a slightly false position because they had a couple of games sort of postponed. I think they had to play Bury, so obviously didn't happen, and then Woody had a game against Portsmouth around the August bank holiday, rescheduled for some kind of festival that was going on in Portsmouth that weekend. So they're quite low down the table, but it doesn't feel that they're necessarily a mid-table team, although their defeat to Bristol Rovers on Saturday was set the mood a bit of quiver there at the moment. There's sort of a few questions being asked, particularly of their manager, Paul Warne, who sort of had an interesting time of it. He came in as caretaker initially when basically Rotherham couldn't get anyone to manage them when they were rock bottom of the Championship a few years ago, and they just looked like they're going to be relegated. And it's about January, so no one's going to take that job on and get tarred with relegation. So he did it. It didn't really make much of a difference initially, but they gave him the permanent job anyway, which seemed quite an odd choice. And weirdly, that seemed to lower expectations and sort of fed into their promotion-winning campaign that season. They beat Shrewsbury the day before we won our own playoff final. And then last season, when they're back in the Championship, obviously no expectations again. And they fought a lot better than they did the last time they were in the Championship. But
they were wretched that first time in the Championship, weren't they? They were awful, weren't they?
Yeah, and they sort of just battled a bit harder, and sort of Paul Warne was trying to do. Scored quite a lot of goals from set pieces and long throws, but they played with a lot of energy and a lot of intensity, which can be hard to overcome. And I suppose this season, questions being whether against teams who are sort of sitting in against them more likely that they're not quite equipped possibly to go and break someone down who's defending really determinedly, whereas maybe they're better at teams when they come onto them a little bit more and they sort of kind of shock them with their physicality. In terms of players to look out for, one player's made a really big difference since joining on transfer deadline day in August is a guy called Jake Hasty from Rangers, although he's never actually played for Rangers, I don't think. They signed him from Motherwell over the summer after a really good season there and plopped him straight out to Rotherham. He's got 3 goals from 5 appearances thus far. He's a really good dribbler. He's quite tall, like quite a lot of Rotherham's team. Likes to cut inside and shoot. He's got a really good set piece on him. And in a side where basically they lost all their wingers over the summer and took forever to replace them, he looks like a real difference maker for them. Otherwise, it's quite a physical team. They've got 3 target men to choose from. They've got Michael Smith, who is just really big, dominant centre forward who wins everything. He went through a spell a few seasons ago where every time he played against us, he scored. Although he's not starting for them regularly. You've got Carlton Morris on loan from Norwich, who's someone who's very good, sort of physically, quite intelligent centre forward. Doesn't quite get the goals. He scored 2 goals in 7 appearances this season, although both of those goals came against Bolton in the 6-1 win. So it doesn't really count. And their other centre for Freddie Ladapo, who scored 20 goals last season for Plymouth, who is one of those big strikers who isn't really a back-to-goal kind of striker, more of a penalty area, and it's really someone who should have scored a few more already this season, tied to his 2, I believe. He's on already, but he's someone who possibly could score a lot more goals with just a bit of a rub of the green going for him. Then in midfield, I've got a few really good players. I've got Ben Wells, who's come through their academy recently, sort of a more technically skillful player than what this Rotherham side is really set up to do. Matt Crooks and Jamie Lindsay, 2 just very big central midfielders, but they can really play when ball's in the final thirds, sort of find those crossfield passes, make the play quite big, just keep those attacks ticking over. And then at the back, we've got quite a few man mountains. Their current centre-back pairing is Clark Robertson and Michael Ihikwe. And then in goal, they've got Daniel Iverson on loan from Leicester, who had a very good loan at Oldham last season. And he's not only a good shot stopper, but his kicking has been particularly important for Rotherham. Quite an accurate, long kicker. I suppose fairly similar in that regard to another Danish keeper at Leicester, who's currently the number 1, Kasper Schmeichel. So I think overall this game's going to be how we can stand up against just a very physical and intense opposition. They've got some technical players who could just really pin us back. It could be a bit of a bombardment if we're not quite ready for it. And particularly as they do need a win right now, I'd imagine they start with quite a bit of intensity. And I think a trend over the past few games certainly is just us starting very slowly and sloppily, seeming quite rusty, and that could really be punished here if we're not careful. So it's going to be another test, and if we get past this one, it's another doubt against this side to tick off, I suppose.
Good stuff. Any final thoughts before I let you go?
Nothing in particular.
Fabulous. Cheers again, Dom. Right, thanks, Dom. So let's start with friend of the show, Ian Heron. He asks, at what point in the season do you stop seeing points as from safety and start seeing them as to promotion? Now, Neil, you were keen to tackle this one, weren't you?
Yeah, he was thinking about things like that. What? I mean,
with 16 points off the relegation zone, it's not happening.
I haven't looked below 8th since the beginning of the season. It's like, come on, we're in League One for a start, so we need to be aiming higher. Also, we're playing really well. We look like a good team. Just, I know it's a joke, but nah, not my kind of joke. And obviously, get it on the radio. Like, people, you know what's going to happen. We'll get to January, and like, if we're still doing well, and we'll have enough points, and someone will ring up and say, well, it looks like we're safe this year, and everybody will have a good laugh at it. And meanwhile, I will be seething that anybody's even thinking in those terms, because this is league. I just have to remind people that League One still remains a disgrace for this football club. I know people enjoy being the small club, but not me, not Neil Allison. No.
Just on the discussion earlier about having an easy bunch of games, we have played all of the bottom 3 and 4 of the bottom 5.
Nice.
Sorry.
Yeah, we kicked their asses.
Unfortunately, we didn't, did we?
No.
As the rotten book will tell us in 5 years' time. We ultimately didn't kick anyone's ass.
I've got that bit of The Simpsons in my head where Frank Grimes sets up Homer to make that it puts him in that kids' competition to make that model of the power plant of how it could be improved. Is that we beat Southend. Well, yeah, we've only played Southend or whatever. Yeah, we battered them though. Right, Richard Hanna asks, playing out from the back, yay or nay? Paul, let's let this one boil your piss.
No, it's fine. I think you just got to pick your times to do it. Against Burton, because they did it every single time, Burton's worked it out, and so did Wimbledon. I think as long as you don't do it every single time where the opposition have pinned you in your box, you clear it, you sort of pass it around, they get the ball, they have a shot, you then do it again, so your strikers are stood there going, I want to get involved in this game. The other thing I find quite interesting about this whole discussion is everyone at the start of the season was telling me that we've signed Gibello and Castaneda because we were going to punt long balls to their heads. And then we're all talking about passing out from the back. We can't do both, surely to God. So I just mix it up. Just mix it up. You can do both. You can do whatever you want. Just don't make it so obvious that the opposition are winning penalties because you do the same thing every single time.
Neil from Lee Bradbury, assuming O'Hare is a guaranteed place on the current form, who is more likely to miss out on a starting 11 berth when everyone is fit? He asks Alan or Shipley, which I think assumes that Liam Walsh is a nailed-on starter now. But I guess on all things considered, we've talked about it a bit. If everyone's fit, who would be your current middle three?
This is a fantastic question, and I think Robbins wouldn't be scared to continue playing the same thing that we've got at the moment if it continued to work. That's how well they could potentially play together. And Shipley he's having a great season. I think he's doing really well. Robbins likes him. He's stepping up. He's showing his confidence. Walsh has done well, and so has O'Hare. So as it stands, those three look like they've got the potential to do something good. If I was playing Football Manager, it will probably be a little bit different, and I'll probably put Kelly back in there for many reasons, mainly for sort of captaincy and just controlling that a little bit more. O'Hare would have to be in there, and then it would be just the choice of one of the others. But given how much I like Shipley, he might have to go in there. But immediately I'm like, oh, Walsh is playing quite well. So it's not. I've not got to make this decision. It's fine. Maybe
Can I throw this one out?
Shipley on the left.
Can I throw this one out there? I'd be tempted to put O'Hare on the right wing.
I wouldn't be averse to that either. Like maybe moving him into a kind of a wide play position, just so you could then fit the others in. But
yeah,
you end up getting into the round
free license. So.
Potentially, yeah.
I think it goes back into that thing again of what function does it serve to be whacking crosses into the box, and O'Hare would probably be closer to Godden, which I think would be a good thing. What is that, nearer to Godden? But also is that then, like you say, is that it would free you up to bring in another quality midfielder once everyone's fit, wouldn't it? I suppose, which is where you've got such a surplus of talent. So it's not the worst idea in the world, that. And we know that Robbins listens to this podcast, and so we'll expect to see that next week without getting any credit for it as usual. Lee asks, this is a different Lee, would JCH be getting championship interest in this team formation run of form? I'm going to answer that one. No. Then from Thomas Murden, should we be playing from the back as often as we do? We've talked about that. How big of a problem is McFadzean's form and performances? We've touched on that. Neil, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, it's two answers to that. It's not a problem because we're not losing, but also kind of is a problem because we're waiting for something to go wrong, and it's gone wrong a little bit against Portsmouth. He made an error. He's making similar errors. I feel he's probably in the team kind of taking over from the fact that Liam Kelly's not in there at the moment. So there's a leadership element there where I think he's maintaining his position in the team for that. But I think if you're going pound for pound for sort of quality of performance so far this year, Hyam and Rose I think are the top two defenders so far. But I don't see Robbins going for those two unless McFadzean really loses his mind. But I think he'll continue to do what he's doing, which I do like his kind of raw madness and the way he shouts at refs and stuff. We do miss the Doyle-esque element. He's always getting involved. He's making sure the ref knows stuff, which is helpful. We need someone like that to do, because Liam Kelly's fairly nice. We need someone to kind of do that. But he's a bit of a he's a bit of a loose cannon, isn't he?
He's also not afraid to take a dive.
Yeah,
He's not afraid to be on his ass. But anyway, yeah, go on.
From one of my favourite people, lovely Matt. I really like this question. This is going to go around for all three of us. If you could take back one of the young players who've left for in inverted commas higher level and not made it, who would you want? His examples are Stevenson, Kean Harries, George Thomas. Anyone got an immediate answer before I throw it to Paul to start us off?
He's got, for me, I said it's got to be an attacking player, but I suppose out of that, then it's James Maddison. He really done nothing since he's left.
Yeah, where is he now? You don't hear much
I've
about him,
never seen anyone mention him. He's disappeared off the face of the earth. What we really need is Neil. I know Neil was a big fan of him when he was a top cop. Ready to find out what he's doing now, because
maybe
that word
was piece. Yeah, where are they now? Who would you go for, Paul? You're going to pick Maddison. Neil, who would you go for?
I'm not too sure. I can't think of anybody who has gone away and I thought, oh, they're still quite good. I guess I did like Stevenson. I think that feels like a little bit of a waste. I was never much of a George Thomas fan. He was nice enough, but maybe Stevenson, just to see what he could have done whilst if he just stuck at the club and built out. Oh no, also Tom Bayliss. Yes, please.
Yeah, I mean,
I found out the other day. Sorry to jump in, but remember the other day. So Alex Neil, the guy who brought Maddison and didn't play him for 18 months, is the guy who brought him for Preston as well. So hopefully, the trajectory we can maybe be a little bit kind of patient with that. But I'm already fed up with that. He's not getting any time at all.
I am too, but ultimately, I also think, isn't sometimes there a plan for these players? So people are going mental about that Moise Kean at Everton not playing, but that he's only 19, and that even as daft as, and I know that these are all isolated examples, but Fabinho didn't play at all when he came to Liverpool, and that some players just need a bit of time just to settle in and to. I think everyone needs to. A lot of COD fans are saying, "Oh, I can't believe he's not playing at all." Wait till the end of the season. He might just need a bit of bedding in, and to. Sometimes managers have got a very specific way of playing and they just want somebody to be ready to play that way. And that's not a reflection on the quality of the player so much as it is about wanting them to be at a certain level or to be capable of doing certain things. My guess would be by the end of the season he'll be an established first team starter, but we are only in September, aren't we? There's plenty of time for him.
I think Don made a good point where we were talking to him earlier about just some teams with money, a little bit more money than us, are in a position to take a punt on the players, so they can bring him in because they want to have that asset. They want to try and develop them themselves. And I'm a little bit calmer about the situation, even though I think that he's brilliant and he should be in the squad. I'm a little bit calmer about that situation, just having remembered that Maddison was kind of in a similar sort of situation when he was there. He didn't get a look in for 12 to 18 months. They sent him out, they sent him back to us first, and then he went out to Aberdeen and he was doing stuff there. And then it was only like last couple of games of that season where he I think he had a couple of minutes or something like that, and suddenly it was like, okay, this guy's too good to ignore at this point. But they're just, there must be a plan.
No, there's hundreds of examples, aren't there? Out of that team that came, or group of lads who came through, Wilson was the last one to make his debut and the last one to play 20 games. Yeah. And now he's the England international. Scholes didn't make his debut for Man United until he was 21. It's just, I think...
Is that true?
Yeah, I think people get overexcited. I think he was 20 or 21. I'm pretty certain he was 21, yeah. I think people get overexcited about lots of things, especially with kids and people coming through academies and all that sort of jazz. I think you've just got to accept, unfortunately, Preston were in the bid to buy him. I think they're like 4th or 5th in the Championship anyway. So it's, they're not a bad side he's gone to. It's not like, and I think someone made a point about, it's Chaplin and Thomas who are getting games. Well, Barnsley are shit. That's why they're getting games. The players who've gone to half decent. I know that's probably the Bright and the Sterling thing at Wigan, but also I think you've got to accept if you've done well in League One, you're in every right to have a chance to try and do well in the Championship, which is what Sterling and Bright have done. They've backed themselves to have a good season in the Championship. It hasn't worked out for them yet, but I think you've got every right.
It would have been madness for Sterling to have gone back to League One, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and same with Bright to an extent. I think you've got that right to try your arm. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But It's not like they've gone to a Premier League club and sort of sat in the academy. They haven't done a big Moraro or one of those sort of. Even George Thomas, who's now not even out on loan. You think they've backed themselves in the Championship, and hopefully they'll get their chance. Hopefully, because it will stop fucking Cov fans from whinging about it. It's like we don't have them. They were on loan. They've made their decision. I think we've got to move on from what Bright's doing or not doing at Wigan. I don't think it's relevant to our season.
We've got Callum O'Hare now.
Exactly.
I wonder how far away George Thomas is from the Leicester first team. He's got to be pretty far back, hasn't he?
Yeah.
About as close as we are. If I've got one criticism of Callum O'Hare, I do wish you'd take on his Twitter feed. He's got a picture of him wearing a Villa shirt. I'd love him to while you're at Cov, just pretend. We're pretending that you have nothing to do with Villa. You pretend you have nothing to do with Villa as well.
A mate of mine who's a Villa fan texted me the other day and said, "How's he getting on?" And I was like, "Well, it's literally going to work out perfectly for you, because when you lot go down to the Championship and lose Grealish, he will come right back into your team and fit right in and pick up his natural place." And I would bet £1 million that is exactly what will happen. Is he'll be playing for Villa in the Championship next season, won't he?
Feels likely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Hopefully so.
So fair play to him. Maybe he's as Villa through and through as lovely Jack is.
Have you seen obviously when he does well and he scores goals and stuff, you see all the Villa fans like piling in and saying good stuff to him, and then you look at him and like, "Oh, you should be giving the fans grief. They're shouting shit on the Villa and stuff." And like, yeah, that's going to go down well, isn't it?
Course, yeah, that'll work.
Just he doesn't care. They expect him to care about that sort of stuff. No.
And then the final question from Mike Hoban, who asks, from somebody called Arctic Donkey, in fact. He says, would you rather a team of Gary Breens or a team of Amadou Bakayokos?
Your answer, please.
Well,
I think you've answered this for all of us.
It's a team of Amadou Bakayokos, isn't it? Let's face fact. We already know the two things that he can do is he does tackles and he does goals, and most of the time at the same time. So defensively and offensively, you've got pretty much the perfect player there.
As you said, which team doesn't want 220 goals a season?
Oh yeah, exactly. Right, okay, is that all all done then?
I think so.
That's a bit lovely then. Right, any other final things to mention, push, plug, anything like that? Doesn't seem so. Right, okay. So, thank you then very much for them, Paul.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you for listening. Bye.